The interview was supposed to be routine, a promotional chat about the final season of Outlander. But when Sam Heughan leaned back in his chair, smiled thoughtfully, and said, "There's a real difference between real and real love," the entire tone shifted. For years, fans have blurred the line between Sam and the character he plays, Jamie Fraser, the passionate Highland warrior whose love for Claire has defined one of television's most iconic romances. But behind the charm and strength of Jamie lies a man who, in real life, has wrestled with what it means to love authentically while living inside the world of fiction. When the interviewer asked if he ever got tired of people confusing him with his character, Sam chuckled. "It's funny," he said softly. "People fall in love with Jamie, and they think they know me through him. But love on screen is written, rehearsed, and retaken until it looks perfect. Real love doesn't give you a script." That one sentence lingered like smoke in the air. Sam went on to explain how acting had taught him a lot about intimacy and connection, but also how dangerous it can be when audiences forget that those moments, no matter how powerful, belong to the story, not to real life. "Jamie and Claire are timeless," he said. "Their love was written to be immortal. But we, as actors, are just people, flawed, messy, and human." He paused, his voice quieter now. "There are days when you wish life could imitate art. But real love, it's not about grand gestures or destiny. It's about showing up, even when the cameras aren't rolling." For the first time, Sam allowed a glimpse into the emotional toll of living under constant public fascination. Every smile shared with Caitríona Balfe had been dissected. Every quote about chemistry became a headline. "I adore Caitríona," he admitted warmly. "She's one of the most important people in my life. But what we've built, it's based on trust, not fantasy." It was the kind of honesty that silenced the room. He continued, describing how the illusion of real love can trap both the actors and the audience. "You spend years pretending to love someone in front of a camera," he said, "and at some point, your heart forgets where the fiction ends. You begin to wonder, am I feeling this because it's real, or because I've lived it so many times it feels real?" The interviewer didn't interrupt. Sam's tone had shifted from professional to personal, each word carrying the weight of years spent navigating fame and loneliness. "Real love," he said finally, "is beautiful because it's safe. You know how it ends. You know the obstacles, the heartbreak, and the reunion. But real love," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Real love asks you to risk everything without knowing the script. It's unpredictable. It can break you, but it can also make you feel alive in a way no performance ever could." For a moment, it was easy to forget that this was an interview. It felt more like a confession, one born from years of trying to balance who he was with who the world wanted him to be. Sam leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I've had people tell me they envy Jamie's love story," he said with a wistful smile. "But Jamie doesn't have to live with the noise, the headlines, the expectations, the distance between what people think love should look like and what it really is." He admitted that fame had changed how he viewed relationships. "It's hard," he said simply. "When your life is public, love becomes fragile. You want to protect it, hide it, keep it untouched. Because once the world sees it, it stops being yours alone." Still, despite the challenges, there was no bitterness in his voice. If anything, there was hope. "I think real love is quieter," Sam said. "It's not about proving anything to the world. It's about the small moments, the ones nobody sees. Maybe that's why it's harder to find, but also why it matters more." The interviewer, clearly moved, asked him what he hoped people would take away from his story. Sam smiled softly. "That love, real love, doesn't need to look perfect. It just needs to be honest." And with that, he sat back, his eyes distant but peaceful. For the first time in years, it felt like Sam Heughan wasn't speaking as Jamie Fraser, the romantic hero, but as himself, a man who had finally learned to separate the roles he plays from the love he still believes in. When the cameras stopped rolling and the lights dimmed, Sam Heughan sat quietly in the empty studio, lost in thought. What he had just said still echoed in his mind. Real love doesn't give you a script. It was a truth that had taken him years to understand, carved out through long nights, heartbreak, and the bittersweet cost of fame. In the quiet, he admitted something few ever heard him say aloud. Being loved for a character, rather than for who he truly was, could feel strangely lonely. People fall in love with Jamie, he once confided to a friend. But I'm not Jamie, I'm just the man who plays him. That difference had followed him everywhere. Fans expected him to be romantic, chivalrous, endlessly devoted, the perfect Highlander. And while Sam carried those traits with grace, real love, he realized, was far more complicated. Jamie always knows the right words, he explained. Real men, we stumble through them, trying not to break what we care about. In recent years, Sam had been open about how difficult it was to maintain personal relationships while working in the spotlight. The endless travel, the fan speculation, the constant link to Caitríona, all of it blurred the lines between truth and perception. I've cared deeply for people, he admitted, but when every gesture gets turned into a headline, it's hard to know if what's real can survive it. He spoke of the toll that kind of attention takes, the way private moments become public property. When the world watches you fall in love, it stops feeling like yours, he said. You start guarding your heart so tightly that sometimes you forget how to open it again. Still, there was warmth in his tone, not regret. Sam was never bitter about love, only wiser. I think, for a long time, I confused passion with permanence, he reflected. Real love burns bright because it's written that way. Real love isn't about fireworks, it's about endurance. He described how his understanding of love had changed over the years. I used to think love was something that found you, he said. Now I think it's something you choose, every day, with patience, forgiveness, and courage. The interviewer, sensing the vulnerability in his words, asked whether Sam believed he had ever experienced real love. He smiled faintly, eyes soft. Yes, he said, more than once. Sometimes it doesn't last forever. But just because something ends doesn't mean it wasn't real. The truth of love is in how it changes you, not how long it stays. There was a pause before he continued. Acting teaches you about connection. You spend months pretending to love someone, and in that space, you touch something real, trust, tenderness, understanding. But the moment the director says, cut, you're reminded that it's not yours to keep. He looked down, almost shyly. Still, it teaches you what you want from the real thing. When asked what that real thing looked like to him now, Sam took a deep breath. Peace, he said simply. Someone who doesn't see the actor, or the headlines, or the expectations, just me. Someone who doesn't need me to be anyone else. He smiled again, softer this time. Maybe that's why I take my time. I don't want a love that feels like a movie anymore. I want one that feels like home. His words resonated deeply with fans who later watched the interview online. Many commented that it was the most authentic they had ever seen him. There was no charm, no rehearsed soundbite, just truth. One fan wrote, Sam isn't Jamie. He's the man who understands love because he's had to search for it in a world that only wants the fantasy. In the days that followed, clips of the interview flooded social media, accompanied by heartfelt reactions. Some said his honesty had made them rethink their own relationships. Others felt a pang of sadness for the man behind the character they adored. But Sam seemed at peace. In a later post, he shared a black and white photo of a quiet Scottish hillside, with the caption, "Sometimes real love is just learning to stay gentle in a hard world." No one knew exactly whom he was speaking to, or about. Maybe it was Caitríona, maybe someone else, or maybe it was a message to himself. But in that moment, one thing was clear. Sam Heughan had found clarity. He no longer needed real love to define him. The real kind, imperfect, unguarded, and honest, was finally something he was ready to embrace, not just portray. And for those who had followed his journey from the beginning, that was the most beautiful revelation of all.